Hello friends, today let's learn about the Allahabad Address that took place in the year 1930. Now before we begin discussing the Allahabad Address, we have to understand a bit about the personality behind this address, and it was Dr. Allama Muhammad Iqbal. We know a lot about him, but I'll be mentioning a few facts here. If you want, you can quickly jot them down, or you can find them from somewhere and memorize them. Why am I asking you to do this? Because suppose if you're given a 7-mark question, so you'll have to write on the Allahabad address, mentioning a few facts on Allama Muhammad Iqbal would add value to your answer. Plus, if it's a 14-mark question, then you'll have to elaborate a little bit more on Allama Iqbal, and for that you can add in these points. So what are the points that you can write? Talk about Dr. Allama Muhammad Iqbal. He was a poet, he was a philosopher, politician, a lawyer, a scholar. He was born on 9th of November 1877 in Punjab, Sialkot. He had written many books. You can learn the names of a few books that he had written, like The Development of Metaphysics in Persia, which he wrote in the year 1908, and The Reconstruction of Religious Thought in Islam. He had also written books on poetry, for example, Bange Dara, Bale Jibril, Zarbe Kalim, and in these books he discusses life, relationship with God, and importance of self-actualization, unity, freedom, etc. You can also mention that he had written many letters in the English language. He wrote a book on economics as well. He gave the idea of a separate homeland. He was knighted in 1923. Now he also remained a member of the Punjab Legislative Council, and later on became the member of the All India Muslim League, but he is best known as and respected as a poet. And we know that Allama Muhammad Iqbal is the national poet of Pakistan. Okay, so all this information can also be written down if a question comes on who was Dr. Allama Muhammad Iqbal. Okay, so you have to learn about him. Now, coming back to the Allahabad address, it took place in 1930. What happened? The famous philosopher Dr. Lama Iqbal was asked to chair a meeting of the Muslim League, okay, in the absence of Jinnah, and this meeting was taking place in Allahabad. Now, this was a presidential address. What did he discuss during this address? Let's have a look on it. Okay, so this was a very one thing that this was a very this meet address has is of historic significance, and Dr. Allama Muhammad Iqbal's address, it revolved around the important realization that Muslims were a separate entity and they should be granted a separate homeland. In this address, he said that this was the only way peace could be restored in the subcontinent, meaning a separate homeland for the Muslims. He asked for the Muslim provinces, that is, the Muslim majority areas, to be given the same privileges as the Hindu majority areas. And it was his, aspiration that it was his desire that Punjab, Northwest Frontier Province, and Balochistan should be amalgamated into a single state, and he concluded that that a consolidated Northwest India Muslim state should be the final destiny of the Muslims. So these were the basic points that he discussed during the Allahabad address. Now, one more significant question that can be asked from this topic is, what is the importance of the role of Allama Iqbal in the creation of the Pakistan movement? So when that question is asked, you have to write about the importance of Allama Iqbal. You can touch upon his personality, and you also have to mention about the Allahabad address, because this was a very important event which highlighted the personality of Allama Iqbal. Okay, now let's move on to Allama Iqbal's contributions. Okay, so what were his contributions to the Pakistan movement? If you get a question like that, you have to mention all of this. Now, he was the first one to suggest partition. And where did he suggest this? In the Allahabad address in the year 1930. And he was suggesting partition on the basis of the two nation theory. We know that the father of the two nation theory is Sir Syed Ahmad Khan, and so Allama Iqbal was just reiterating his theory. He was an inspiration to Muslims in general, and an inspiration for other Muslim leaders in particular. Now, he gave an objective, a goal to strive for the Muslims of India, because the Muslims of India, they had become wayward, they had lost their a sense of direction, a sense of unity. So he instilled in them, this desire to work for together and for a specific unified goal, and that was freedom, independence. So he was an inspiration for other Muslim leaders like Chaudhry Rahmat Ali. Chaudhry Rahmat Ali, we'll learn about him later on. He came up with the idea of Pakistan in 1933. So who was he inspired by? He was inspired by Allama Iqbal. And now Allama Iqbal's ideas became a basis of Pakistan resolution in 1940, and we'll see that later on when we look at Pakistan resolution as well. His poetry instilled nationhood amongst Muslims, imparted in them the zeal and courage to work for their goals, and the goal that we are talking about here is an independent state. And his poetry is not time specific, meaning if you read it even today, that will give you a lot of courage. It will impart in the youth of the present times enthusiasm to work for their goals, to achieve something better, to be organized, and improve their relationship with their god and with their own selves, and move on to self actualization. So that important is his poetry. Okay, so now let's move on to what kind of questions can be asked from this topic. Now let's look at some of the questions that can be asked. Now I have written down one such question. Uh, from this topic, multiple questions can be asked. Like I earlier said, it can be a 7 mark question, it can be a 14-mark question, it can also be a 4-mark question. If a question comes, who was Dr. Muhammad Allama Muhammad Iqbal? So you can write a few facts from his, life story, life history. Okay, now supposing if you get a question like that, assess the significance of the contribution of Allama Iqbal and Chaudhry Rahmat Ali to the Pakistan movement. Explain your answer. And if it's a 14-mark question, how are you supposed to answer? Let's have a look at it. Now, don't worry, we'll be discussing Chaudhry Rahmat Ali's contribution in my upcoming video. So you will get all information from there. Now, firstly, you have to write an introduction to your answer. Okay, whenever you are beginning your answer, write an introductory paragraph first, and in your introduction, you'll be introducing both the personalities, Allama Iqbal and Chaudhry Rahmat Ali. Once you're done with that, here you can, mention those facts which I mentioned earlier in the video, okay, about his personality. Then you can talk about Allama Iqbal in the next paragraph and his significance to the creation of the Pakistan movement. Here you will be talking about, the Allahabad Address. You can talk about his poetry. You can talk about his writings. You can talk about, uh, you know, his endorsement of the two-nation theory, etc., etc. And then coming on to the third paragraph, you'll be discussing the role of Chaudhry Rahmat Ali to the Pakistan movement. Here you will be talking about his role, uh, you know, uh, his idea of Pakistan in 1933, etc., etc. Right? Then finally, you will be concluding your answer. Now, this is a very, very important part of your answer because this cannot be missed. It carries separate marks. Okay, so in the conclusion, you have to assess, you have to weigh which of the two personality do you think played a more significant role in the creation of Pakistan. And so obviously it was Allama Iqbal because it was on his idea, on his theory that Rahmat Ali came up with the idea of Pakistan. So you have to beautifully just conclude your answer and give a beautiful conclusion to all that you have written down, and this is how you'll be answering this particular question. So I hope I have made this a little bit easier for you guys, and if you have any doubts you can write them down in the comment section down below. I'll also be telling you how to write a 7-mark question and a 4-mark question in some of my other videos. Till then, I'm Nidha Umar signing off. Take care of yourselves and also of your loved ones. Bye bye.